welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with the movers and shakers, those film and TV makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, sound mixers, sound editors, film editors, composers, stunt coordinators, and so many more. You know I love to talk, and you know I love to talk to all of our artisans involved in the production process. And today, we're chatting about some wonderful films with some terrific filmmakers. Oh, by the way, Emmy Awards, I'm so glad Stephen Colbert got a standing ovation, and I really hope that somebody out there will have jobs for his 200 crew members who will be unemployed come June of 2026. That was a terrific way to kick off one of the kickoffs for the Emmys. And Harrison Ford didn't win, so I don't care about anything else. Anyway, back to today's show. I digressed. But we are chatting about some wonderful films with some terrific filmmakers today, starting with a director and co-writer whose work I have long enjoyed, Allan Ungar, who joins me for this exclusive interview talking about his new film, London Calling. Then in the second half of the show, director and co-writer Christopher Leone and writer former paramedic Patrick Pianezza are on hand for their new must-see comedy, Code 3. I got to tell you, I had so much fun watching London Calling. It is action-packed, but it has so much heart in it. It is pure and simple fun from beginning to end. Directed by Allan Ungar, with script by Omer Levin Menekse, Allan Ungar and Quinn Wolfe, London Calling stars Josh Duhamel, who reteams with Allan Ungar after their action film of a couple years ago, Bandit. And along with Josh is the scene-stealing Jeremy Ray Taylor. I just adore him. He is fantastic in this film. Aidan Gillen, Arnold Vosloo, known best as everyone's favorite mummy. Rick Hoffman and Daniel Lasker, who is a solid standout here. The story is a simple one. After fleeing the UK from a hit job gone wrong, a down-on-his-luck hitman named Tommy, played by Josh Duhamel, is forced to babysit Julian, the son of his new crime boss, Benson, and show him how to become a man. And Julian is, besides being a scene stealer, he is played to perfection by Jeremy Ray Taylor. But what elevates the simplicity of this story, which is packed with plenty of action and adventure, is the incredibly heartfelt bonding between Duhamel's Tommy and Taylor's Julian, and the chemistry between Josh and Jeremy, as they embark on what can almost be described as a road trip buddy action comedy. Their growing quasi-paternal bond is palpable, and in all honesty, it makes your heart smile. There's a sweetness to this as we watch this dynamic between hitman Tommy and his young babysitting charge Julian play out. Casting Josh as Tommy was ideal, as we've seen Josh do action in films like Bandit, Off the Grid, or Transformers, drama, like in the adaptation of Nicholas Sparks' Safe Haven, rom-coms like When in Rome, and even pure comedy going all the way back to his first feature film, and where I first took note of him, Win a Date with Tad Hamilton. This makes for a perfect tonal balance for the character of Tommy and for the film. As Tommy interacts more and more with Julian, it provides the fun of a friend, but also some needed parental guidance. Julian's father, mob boss Benson, is anything but a parent, and he is really played to absolute perfection by the incredible Rick Hoffman. And dare I even mention, we've even got some cosplay, aka LARP, live-action role-play sequences that play a big part in the development of Julian and in the ultimate relationship between Tommy and Julian. Allan's got a lot to say about the LARP element of the film. Let me tell you, you're going to love hearing what he has to say. Now, watching them bond and encompassing the growing father-son dynamic on its own is fantastic. But then, together with cinematographer Alexander Chinichi, the story and emotion is punctuated with not only beautiful imagery immersing us in London and Los Angeles, but some outstanding montages that not only fuel the emotion of the story, but showcase Chinichi's impressive skills and the visual grammar he and Allan have designed. Sun flares, slow-mo, saturation of color, bright sun, it's all spectacular. But when we're talking about spectacular, we've got to bring production designer Warren Gray, art director Kerry von Lilienfeld, and set director Roberto Bassi into the conversation as they transform Cape Town and its surrounding desert suburbs in South Africa into London and Los Angeles. Allan, you're going to hear Allan go into great detail about their efforts and that of cinematographer Alexander Chinichi. But for the beauty of the skies, you would never know this wasn't being shot in LA and London. For those that don't know, and this is something I always take note of with cinematographers, depending on where they're shooting in the world, you're going to hear sometime later this week. I just finished an interview with Garrett O'Brien, the cinematographer on the upcoming film Waltzing with Brando that stars Billy Zane. And Garrett shot the whole film in Tahiti, including on Marlon Brando's private island, Territa. And we get really in-depth talking about the light in that part of the world. Similarly here, Allan and I were talking about the light in South Africa and how that affects shooting and work for the cinematographer. That light directly impacts the visuals and the visual grammar of the film, most notably with the lighting. And that in turn can affect the lenses that you select. As you're going to hear Allan talk about, Alex started with the direction of the sun in that part of the world, which was not an easy adjustment, and then went from there. Now, Allan is big on kinetic camera movement, which means he likes deliberate camera movement during an exposure so that it creates abstract or energetic images. With that in mind, and working with the purity of the sky, the sun, and the air, the pair developed a visual language to give us some shots that were like a fly on the wall, in the corner of a ceiling, looking down on things, with beautiful lighting, backlighting, absolutely gorgeous. Then there are also perfect eye-level shots, and the eye-level shots in this film are just amazing because Alex makes great use of the differential between Josh and Jeremy. So we get the power dutching of Josh's Tommy being the adult or the one in control with the power. But that then shifts as Tommy and Julian get closer and they are more eye level with each other, as it metaphorically showing the mutual respect and communication between them. And I have to say that LA should look even half as good as it does in this film. From the production design to the cinematography, it is gorgeous. Of course, Allan and I also discuss Jeff Sebenek's editing, as well as that of Richard Starkey, who did the opening titles. This was a challenging edit in order to balance all of the elements at play here. Action shootouts, chase scenes, cosplay or LARP sequences, the emotional beats, and the buildup of the individual backstories for Tommy and Julian, which plays into their buddy road trip camaraderie. And yes, there are scenes shot inside cars too. And that's always fun when you're shooting, because you have to compete with, okay, you're in South Africa. It's hot. You want the air conditioner on, but you can't turn the air conditioner on because of the sound of it is going to be picked up on the camera and the radio. You can't have the radio on unless it calls for a radio scene, because that as well as the engine, as well as the tires on whatever. So there's so much here that Jeff had to work with to knock things out, to bring things in, to cut things. And you're going to hear Allan talk about things that he hated to have cut and why. And of course, then there's Trevor Morris's score, which delivers some incredible modulation of emotion, and the use of string instruments is fantastic. So, take a listen to my exclusive interview with director and co-writer Allan Ungar, talking as he talks about London Calling, breaking it all down for you. Hi, Allan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so happy to be talking with you today about London Calling.
Very happy to speak to you as well.
I am such an admirer of your work, going back to Gridlocked and then, of course, Bandit with Josh and Mel. I had so much fun watching London Calling.
That's so great to hear. Thank you.
It is a fun movie. It's action-packed, and it has so much heart in it. There is a sweetness to this as we watch this dynamic between Tommy and Julian play out. And I've got to say, you really scored big when you cast Josh with Jeremy Ray Taylor. Their chemistry...
we've been getting a lot of that today, and I think it's incredibly on point.
Oh my God, the two of them, and watching them bond, which really encompasses the whole father-son dynamic, is just so wonderful. And you punctuate that with some beautiful montages. You get to the hour 13 mark here, and you've got a beautiful montage. And Alexander is giving you these gorgeous sun flares. You've got slow-mo happening. The color is vibrant. The sun is bright. It is spectacular. That takes us into that third act.
Alex and I have worked together for 6 or 7 years now, I want to say, and he's been my cinematographer and dear friend, and we had a lot of fun talking about the look of this film, and then just sort of got really excited about the prospect of how we can make it and give it a very fun throwback flavor.
I've admired Alexander's work for a long time. Going a shot through the wall, a creature was stirring. Of course, Bandit. I just think he is brilliant with light and lens. So I'm curious about how the two of you developed the visual grammar here, taking into account the glorious sun that you get in South Africa. Because it's totally different than if you're shooting in Los Angeles. We're south of the equator, and the sun so... What it does to the air when the camera picks it up is stunning.
And Alex started on the direction of the sun working differently in that part of the world, because it was not easy as an adjustment.
So how did the two of you develop the visual grammar and incorporate... I love how you give us some shots that were like a fly on the wall in the corner of the ceiling looking down on things. We get a lot of really perfect eye-level shots, and I love your differential as Tommy and Julian get closer. They become more eye-level when they're talking. So that's some camera manipulation there and movement to level them up as they become more equal rather than the power shots. So I'm curious about your conversations to develop all of that.
Yeah, so, we already had a shorthand in terms of sort of, we had done the Uncharted film together and Bandit, of course. And so we always have had the same sensibilities in terms of how the camera moves and how to use saturation and how to use the lenses to sort of tell the story. I'm very old school in the sense that I believe that you should be able to watch a film on mute, and the camera and the performances can tell you everything about what's happening in the movie. And I mean, that's also why I think a lot of film schools, like the one I went to, have you start, without sound. You're just shooting black and white, 16 mil film, no sound, no music, nothing. So Alex and I spoke at length about how, taking the script and expanding on that and what the visual language was, very much meant to evoke a time, 90s specifically. We looked at a lot of Dan Mandel's work and Michael Bay and Tony Scott in terms of the saturation, in terms of how the sun is used and how we use color, specifically London versus Los Angeles, sort of taking the dark and griminess of London and the vibrant, sort of colorful nature of Los Angeles. And I always have been really big on kinetic camera movement. So Alex was used to sort of my approach to using the camera as a device. And so while the strikes were going on in 2023, before we shot, we had some time to sit and think about it and talk about it. Alex, wanted to create a LUT for the movie, and we kind of just really dug in pretty early and talked through how the movie was going to flow and how it was going to look. And it was a really, really great. I think it was probably the first time I had that much, I want to say prep. It wasn't real prep, but it was a prep that we chose to do together. That was the longest amount of time I had in preparation for a movie.
Well, it was worth every minute you spent, Allan, because it looks spectacular and your visuals tell. A lot of people overlook the fact that cinematography is a page of the storytelling. It's a layer. And you said it very succinctly. It's like the visual, the cinematography, looking at it should be able to tell you what the story is, what's happening. And it does with London Calling. I'm really amazed. I've seen many films shot in South Africa that represent many different parts of the world. I have never seen somebody take the locations of South Africa and make it look so perfect for London and Los Angeles. So I have to give kudos to your production designer, Warren, and your art director, Kerry, and your set decorator, Roberto. How did you guys end up creating two very distinct, notable global towns out of desert in South Africa outside of Cape Town? This amazes me.
Well, look, Carrie, Roberto, Warren, phenomenal. Just one of the best teams I've ever worked with. And I would like to say that, some of that has to go off to the crew on Bandit. And I say that because, when we made Bandit, which also was with Josh, we had to recreate 1980s Canada in the south of Georgia. And I like to say that experience made me equipped to do anything moving forward. And of course, London Calling was the next one. So, the approach was very similar to Bandit, which was finding corners, architecture, anything that remotely resembles. Now, keeping in mind that the CBD, the Central Business District in Cape Town, has a lot of old architecture that resembles what you would have seen in the UK. And so that really lent itself to the solution. That was very, very helpful. I also think that, Alex and I like to shoot things that we need. We don't always kind of go overboard and go, let's just go wide, because we picked our shots very carefully, very meticulously, knowing, same as Bandit, that if I tilt up or I pan left, the game is up. People are going to know it's not really London or LA. So the London part was a little bit more challenging, but the fact that it was pretty isolated as the prologue was helpful. And then the truth about Los Angeles is that I think because the story wasn't really taking place within the metropolis, it was very much an outskirts road movie. I do think that helped as well. And you go to Cape Town, you got the palm trees, you have the desert, you have the blue sky, you have some architecture that's similar. It was really just about finding the locations that would evoke, the right feeling when trying to trick people into thinking that we actually, did shoot in London and did shoot in LA.
Well, you definitely succeeded, and it looks beautiful. LA should look as good as it does on screen in this film, let me tell you.
I want that on a t-shirt.
But, because you said something very key here in picking your shots, because if you pan left, go right, you're going to lose everything. This comes, and you only shoot what you need. This is very key when it comes to your editing process. How challenging was the editing process here? Because you've got all of the action happening, and you've got plenty of action happening here. You've got the road trip aspect. You've got the emotionality of the quote-unquote father-son bonding. You've got poor Josh dealing with his aging eyesight, as so many of us are. And you have to hit all of those beats to make this work. And keep us in the locale, immerse us in that, and don't let us leave. How challenging was this editing process for you?
So it's funny, you know, it's always overwhelming when you have so much footage. And Alex and I, you know, having done 2 features and obviously Uncharted together, I shoot a lot. Like, I shoot what I need, but I still shoot a lot. And, you know, we were doing, God, anywhere from 60 to 100 setups a day, sometimes 110. And, you know, I tend to edit a lot of my own movies. I always have. So I kind of shoot knowing how I'm going to cut it. And even when we're making the movies, I'll cut sizzle reels just to excite everybody to keep them going. And I'll cut little mock-ups and roughs of the scenes. So on this film, I had Richard Stark, who's an incredible editor based out of Cape Town. And he got a start. We kind of traded footage back and forth. And, you know, it's always nice to have another eye on things because, you know, you get an editor who might be more familiar with action or might be more familiar with comedy. And I think this is why so many films have different people coming in to punch things up. But I always kind of, you know, when I finish a film, I take a vacation, I come back, and it's, you know, some people would say it's detrimental to my ability to have a social life. But I will watch every frame of footage from start. And I would usually make about a 200-page Microsoft Word document with all of my selects and all of my favorite moments. And then I come up with ideas where I go, oh, you know what, maybe this moment didn't work the way I thought it would, or this moment will actually be punctuated and be better if I use this take that I didn't expect to use on the day. So I do this whole refresher for a few weeks that lets me get very acclimated again. And I know it inside and out so that when I jump in, I know which moments to use. So you know, I would say that there's pros and cons because it does take me a little bit longer to put the film together than I think most directors who kind of jump in and out. I like to take my time. I like to find the human moments. I like to find the magic that, you know, I might have discovered on set, but I think could be embellished a little bit more. I really do love that part of the process. It's one of my favorite parts. It can be overwhelming at times, but I just sort of rely on my instinct and rely on my understanding of character to sort of help pick the best moments.
Well, I think you picked a hell of a lot of best moments in this one, Allan.
Thank you.
I love the cosplay aspect, the live action role play, as it's called in the film. And so much of that works not only because of Jeremy's performance, but Daniel Lasker. Where did you find Daniel Lasker?
Oh my God, you're the first person to mention him.
He leaps off the screen.
Yeah, he's like a great Harry Potter villain, isn't he?
Yes.
He auditioned, and I right away I was like, I don't want to look at anybody else. He's our guy. He's our Barnabas. Yeah, and you know it's so funny because there was murmurings and there were people that weren't as enthusiastic about the LARPing when we shot it and when we edited it, and I had to fight with a few people because I said, look, this is Julian's entire arc. This is Julian's world. If you don't have it, it's kind of like Thurman Merman in Bad Santa. If he doesn't stand up to the bully, what's the point of Thurman Merman other than a sidekick and a mouthpiece for Billy Bob? And same with Julian. If you don't understand where Julian comes from and who he is, and the whole concept that, you know, he doesn't look at his father as family, he looks at that community as his family. That's the whole point of his character. So we had a lot of fun with that stuff, and we shot that over 2 days in a park. And, you know, admittidly, my biggest regret with the movie is that I cut out a couple of bits from those sequences that Alex and I talk about it all the time. I wish I put it back in because we were getting a lot of pushback from people that maybe the LARPing wouldn't resonate and people wouldn't relate to it. And, you know, so I kind of was like, maybe they're right. Maybe they have a point. But in order to sort of meet them in the middle, I'll just trim it a little bit more and I'll cut some of this stuff out. And that, you know, there's about 20, 30 seconds of booby traps and fun predator moments where Josh is stalking these guys in the jungle, and it was hysterical. That I wish kind of made it back into the movie, but no, it was great. I think a lot of people really responded to the LARPing.
Now, I would have loved to have seen some of those other elements because they are so instrumental and connective with the journey that Tommy and Julian are going on, so that he gets to take all of this pretend and really start, and you look at the setups that you have, the physical setups you have for some of those action sequences, and that would have just melded and mirrored perfectly for the LARB to have, you know, the booby traps and all. So I wish you
Yeah,
would...
and listen, I mean, it still works, and it still works. Everything, you know, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with how it turned out. But at the end of the day, that's Jeremy's world, and Jeremy gets sucked into Josh's world, and then it's a chance to bring Josh back into his world, which you need in sort of the buddy cop genre. And obviously the whole notion of him being a gamer who plays pretend for a living, who has to be brought back into that. So yeah, no, that's well said.
It's wonderful. Now, I've got one more thing I've got to ask you about, Allan. Trevor Morris's incredible score. This score is so much fun, Allan. There is wonderful emotional modulation, not only in the composition, but in the instrumentation that Trevor uses. What were you looking for musically from Trevor, who I think just is an amazing composer?
I was looking for exactly what he gave me, and that is why I brought him on. No, I was looking for, you know, it's such a hard tone to hit when you have action and comedy, and you never want it to get too dark or too goofy or too whimsical. So Trevor and I spent a lot of time kind of creating the audible palette for the film. And it's funny, quick funny story before we go is that when I did my Netflix movie Gridlocked, Olympus Has Fallen had just come out that Trevor scored. And I used a bunch of his temp in my second movie. So then to do a movie where he actually scored it was kind of fun. So.
No, I love the score, and especially with some of the montages. That hour 13 montage, the score at that point is so lilting. It is so fun. You can't help but smile listening to the score and watching that montage of Josh and Jeremy. And there are other, at the 41-minute mark, you've got something in there with their first hit together, with the flip phone and the toilet paper and the soap and the bathroom fight. Just wonderful all around, Allan. I love it. And I can't wait for more. I can't wait to see what you give me next. Thank you, Allan. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
And that was Allan Ungar discussing London Calling, which is in theaters this Friday, September 19th. In theaters only, people. We got a lot of films coming out this fall in theaters. So get thee to a theater and keep theaters alive. But now we're coming in hot with sirens roaring and lights flashing thanks to director and co-writer Christopher Leone and writer former paramedic Patrick Pianezza and their new film, Code 3. And Patrick was a paramedic for about 10, 12 years. Directed by Christopher, Code 3 is a high-octane action dramedy that follows a world-weary paramedic on his final 24-hour shift as he trains his eager but inexperienced replacement. This is the synopsis from the studio, just so you know. You know I would not say words like this. What begins as a routine night quickly unravels into a chaotic citywide odyssey, testing their endurance, instincts, and sense of humor as they race from one emergency to the next. Blending heart, irreverent comedy, and edge-of-your-seat action, Code 3 offers a gritty, behind-the-scenes look at the life of first responders, where every call could mean disaster or redemption. The screenplay is grounded in real-life experience and was co-written by former paramedic Patrick Pianezza and director Christopher Leone, lending the film an authentic and emotionally resonant core. As you're going to hear in this interview with the two of them, the thing for which Patrick and Christopher are most proud is the medical accuracy and authenticity of the film. Something else that's important to them is the subtextual commentary on the healthcare system and first responders, much of which is shown with the breaking of the fourth wall by Rainn Wilson's character of Randy. And I got to tell you, there are some statistics that come out in this film, such as EMTs and paramedics being at the bottom rung of the pay scale, that will shock you. You will be shocked. Now, Code 3, it's unflinchingly fun, entertaining, and eye-opening at the same time. What tickles me is that, as most of you know by now, I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s. I was born in the 50s. During that time, Emergency was one of the top-rated shows in the country. And I really think that's one of the last shows that focused on EMTs or paramedics. So to now see a 21st century tale like Code 3 that incorporates real-life situations and circumstances is a joy. And the authenticity and the intensity that Christopher and Patrick bring to this is just fantastic on every level. From a very smartly written script that's very crisp to dialogue that is fantastic. The situational experiences are beyond believable. And as you're going to hear, both Christopher and Patrick mention in our interview at different points, they repeat this. In their eyes, emergency has been the most medically accurate show on the air for paramedics, which those of us who have been fans for all these decades have already figured out. So much of this film is shot out in the field, in the Hawthorne and Inglewood areas of Los Angeles, as well as being in the LAX flight path, which adds its own kind of logistical ambience, and we really get a sense of time and place. They take us into the ambulance, and mind you, as you'll hear the boys talk about it, this was a working ambulance, a working Lifeline company ambulance, not a stage creation with blowout doors and sides and fake equipment. This is a working ambulance that they shot in. And Christopher gives us all the intel on the ambulance scenes and working with his cinematographer Mark Williams to pull all that off, including a rather juicy scene that I had to ask about that was practically done involving projectile vomiting inside the ambulance. Exteriors are great on the whole, but they're also logistically challenging because, as you know, depending on when you're shooting, because you're in the direct flight path of LAX, so you've got planes flying over traffic, you've got people, you've got traffic and more traffic. It is LA after all. And then you also have to think about coverage shots for the emotional resonance. So it's very tricky, especially when you see the film and a lot of these scenes that are out on the freeway. Yeah, they actually shot on the freeway. But on every level, they knock it out of the park with Code 3. Now, this started out as a college assignment for Patrick about 12 years ago. And what struck Christopher when he read it, because it made its way to Christopher courtesy of Patrick's brother, who worked with Christopher. So, big familial connections here. And yes, Patrick's brother does work on the film, too. But what struck Christopher when he read the script that Patrick had written was Patrick's take that it was comedic on this very stressful, very exciting, sometimes very hilarious, but heartbreaking job, treating it as comedy, but comedy that told the truth about burnout. Because this film is told through the perspective of Rainn Wilson's character, Randy, who has been at this for 18 years, and this is his last 24-hour shift, and then he's saying bye-bye, and he's going to go work at an insurance company. Yeah, anybody that works at an insurance company, I'm sure you're chuckling at that. But one of the standouts with the film is the humanity that gets the EMTs through a shift, a 24-hour shift. And of course, telling this through the eyes of Rainn Wilson's character of Randy, the 18-year paramedic working the final shift with his longtime partner, Mike, and breaking in his replacement, a young, eager female named Jessica, is what sucks you in as you watch. Rainn Wilson is pure gold. As bitter as Randy is at the healthcare system, his care and caring for the people he's helping never falters, no matter what he faces, including a very assholic ER doctor, Dr. Serrano, brilliantly played by Rob Riggle, by the way, or the challenges he faces with the cops interfering in very intense situations, some involving mental health and veterans. Randy keeps on going and providing first-rate care. I can see no one else in the role of Randy but for Rainn Wilson. After seeing this film, when you first hear about the film, and I know when I first got the press blast on it, I was like, Rainn Wilson? And I thought it would be, okay, if Rainn's in it, and he's co-starring with Lil Rel Howery, who is one of the funniest guys around, this was going to be a balls-to-the-wall, laugh-out-loud comedy. That's not what it is. There's a lot of nuance here in the performances, and that's thanks to this rapier script that they have and their skills as actors. But as I said, joining Rain is Lil Rel Howery as Randy's partner Mike. And what I love about his casting is that not only does he get to show off his comedy skills, going toe-to-toe with Wilson, but there is one standoff scene with Howery that is so intense, you will be on the edge of your seat. I had no idea that Howery could bring that kind of gravitas to the table. It is a wow. And Christopher directs the hell out of that scene. It comes up into the second act, third act. So be on the lookout for it. And we even get some great surprises and fun moments peppered throughout the film, not the least of which are some laugh-out-loud moments, courtesy of Yvette Nicole Brown, while Amy Carrero as newbie Jessica really plays grounds the paramedic trio of Randy, Mike, and Jessica. And she is the perfect foil for Rainn Wilson as she plays naive, smart, and compassionate. So she does a juggling act, but she really grounds things. And I got to tell you, Yvette Nicole Brown as their boss, Shanice, she is a scream. When we get into the third act in particular, you will be roaring. Of course, you're going to hear Christopher talk about the magic of this cast. And his key, and I quote, "There's a secret to getting great performances, which is just hiring great actors." And he certainly does that here. What's really interesting, and you're going to hear Christopher and Patrick talk about this, especially for Patrick, they were adamant that the three leads had to be medically correct and authentic in their performances. They had to undergo, there was a day of training for Wilson, Howery, and Carrero. They all learned and got certified in CPR so they could do it accurately on screen. They also did ride-alongs with LA County Station 14 out of South Central, which by call volume is the busiest station house in all of LA. Now, in addition to tackling all of this, in this exclusive interview, Christopher and Patrick highlight the film's authentic portrayal of paramedic life. And as you'll hear, Christopher has nothing but praise for Patrick's script, for its blend of comedy and seriousness, focusing on burnout and the true nature of the job. The film's visual grammar, led by cinematographer Mark Williams, captures the claustrophobic yet dynamic environment of an ambulance and the emotionality of the situations. And Christopher goes into detail on developing that visual grammar and shooting with the Sony Venice camera and why they chose the Venice as their camera of choice. And of course, how about the work of editor Jay Friedkin? You know his work, Babe, and Babe, Pig in the City. Jay delivers a film that it has a fast-paced urgency, but with calm efficiency. And that really struck me as I'm watching this. No matter how urgent a situation is, there's an energy to a scene, but there's also calm that comes with the urgency and the energy. And it works beautifully here. And of course, we also talk about the score, because you know I love score. And that's composed by Maximilian Eberle. And interestingly, he uses medical instruments as instruments to provide a unique sound in the score. Scalpels, pans, I don't know if bedpans were used, but scalpels, pans, forceps. It's just brilliant. And Christopher talks about that. And so far, they're really pleased. They played to audiences. They're especially happy when professionals, EMTs and paramedics in the field have seen the film. And it speaks to them and resonates with them. And I think the film's going to resonate with you too. As I hope this interview will. So take a listen as Christopher Leone and Patrick Pianezza talk about Code 3. Hello, Christopher. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
I'm very happy to be speaking with both of you about Code 3. I love the film.
Thank you.
It is unflinchingly fun, entertaining, and eye-opening at the same time. What tickles me is I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s when Emergency was one of the #1 rated shows in the country. And I really think that's one of the last shows that really focused on the EMTs or paramedics. So to now see a 21st century tale like Code 3 that incorporates real life situations and circumstances again is a joy. And the authenticity and the intensity that you bring to this is just fantastic on every level. From a very smartly written script, it's very crisp, your dialogue is great, the situational experiences are beyond believable. Being out in the field so much, we really get a sense of time and place. You take us into the ambulance. Christopher, I don't know how you and your DP Mark Williams pulled that off, but you do it, and you do it really well. Just on every level, guys, you just knock it out of the park here. So I'm curious, what made this the right time for you to make this film? For you, Christopher, to finally read Patrick's notes or rough script and say, yeah, we're going to make this. We need to make this into a film.
Well, first of all, thank you. I mean, your review of the movie is like everything I could possibly hope for. I think, I read the script years ago. Patrick and I have been developing this for a long time. And, when I first read it, what knocked me out was that Patrick's take on it was comedy on this, very stressful, very exciting, sometimes very hilarious, but heartbreaking job, treating it as comedy, that comedy told the truth. And that was so fascinating to me. And it was a story about burnout. I think especially after the pandemic and seeing how hard all the healthcare workers work, I think it only brought it to a boil. And so I think at this moment to see what the job really is, because we all think we know what the job is, right? We all watch TV, and right, except for like Emergency. I think it's a total surprise what the job really is. And so I think our goal was to really take you on that ride and let you experience what it feels like to be a real paramedic and be the fourth paramedic in the ambulance. And we wanted to be medically accurate. We wanted to get it right. And our highest goal was really that any paramedic or EMS worker could watch the movie and go, oh my God, they got it right.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Patrick, my co-writer, was a paramedic for 12 years. So he lived it. He lived it. He walked the walk. And as he told me about it and as we talked about it, it blew my mind.
I'm curious for you, Patrick, how cathartic has this process been for you after the 10, 12 years, whatever you spent as a paramedic? And obviously, you were at the end of your rope, something that would prompt you to put your experiences down on paper with the humor in the face of adverse circumstances. So I'm curious how cathartic it has been for you to make this film and see it coming out for everybody to hopefully understand more and appreciate more than what they currently do.
Yeah, it was very therapeutic to be able to put this story to paper. In fact, it originated as a homework assignment. I was in college and it was in a creative writing class, and the professor said, write what you know. And I had just came off this brutal 14-hour shift, and the only thought that went through my brain was, oh, you want a story? I'll tell you a story. Went home and just cranked out this short story that ended up eventually becoming the script. And as the script kept getting modified through Chris's input and this 10 years, 12 years of development, it really became almost like a therapeutic outlet because it allowed me to revisit things from the outside, looking back in, and that was very helpful and an amazing opportunity to make sure that we're still being honest about the situations and the people that we take care of, while also ensuring that we're never insulting the people that are calling for help. And so it was a joy to do and a very surreal experience the first day on set to see something that goes from just literally words written on a page that was a homework assignment to, over 100 amazing artists bringing words to physical 3D life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they certainly do bring life. One of the standouts with the film is it's the humanity that gets the EMTs through, that gets the paramedics through the 24-hour shift. And, of course, telling this really through the eyes of Rainn Wilson's character of Randy. You struck gold getting Rainn Wilson in that role.
Absolutely.
I could not agree more.
As bitter as Randy is at the system, his care and caring for the people he's helping never falters. No matter what he faces with assholic Dr. Serrano, or the challenges and how disgruntled he is without even the cops in that very intense scene. I got to tell you, Christopher, you directed the heck out of the scene where they're trying to help the veteran who's run out of his meds.
Thank you, but man, I have to give so much credit to Lil Rel Howery and Rafael Castillo in that scene too. I mean, the whole cast, but those guys really just put it out there, and so it was really heart-wrenching. And the cut you see, that's basically the editor's first take. Like, he assembled it, and it was like, I think you have it. I mean, we did some very minor tweaks, but it really, it just sort of came together.
Yeah, that had me on the edge of my seat, because you could have taken the film in a couple different directions at that point. And you didn't. Yeah. You stayed true to the characters and to the paramedics' mission of helping. Always thinking of that patient and who they're helping. And I'm glad you mentioned the editing. Jay Friedkin, who I'm not surprised gave you such a great first cut with that scene. He's a wonderful editor. Absolutely wonderful. And I've enjoyed his work for years. I mean, what he did with Babe and Babe Pig in the City.
Yeah.
Adorable.
No, he was phenomenal, and I think, like I said, also really, I think like everybody in the movie, like really having an understanding of both the dramatic side and the comedic side, and how to kind of thread that needle.
Yeah, and you thread it very tightly, but I mean, I loved the energy that Jay gives the film in the cut. It's fast-paced, there's an urgency, but there is a calm efficiency. And that's another needle that's really, really hard to thread, Christopher.
I mean, I think that's the job. I mean, I think that's what I think astonished me so much is that, I mean, I think, Patrick, how did you say it was long stretches of boredom followed by absolute terrifying moments of...
Utter boredom mixed in with moments of sheer terror.
Yeah, like, that's the real job. And the fact that, like, you know, paramedics can be goofing around together in the truck and then go on a complete bullshit call and then, you know, try to grab a bathroom break for 5 minutes, and then the next call an absolute tragedy, and that up and down is the job. And so I think creating the movie to try to create what that feeling is for a general audience of like, oh my God, what does this feel like to be a paramedic and experience all that range. And so that's what's I think so fascinating about it, and especially like I said, one through the lens of comedy, but then the more you, like I said, the deeper you get into it, the more you tell the truth about what the job really is, the more it gets, you see the sadder side, you see the darker side, you see what's wrong in the system, and it was fascinating to me. I mean, I think it was completely enlightening learning about all this.
Well, and a big part of this, in addition to the incredible performances and your casting, getting Rainn, Lil Rel, and Amy in particular, those three together are magic. They have such a great chemistry and camaraderie. How did you pull that off?
I mean, look, there's a secret to getting great performances, which is just hiring great actors. It makes it much easier. But I mean, no, I mean, those three, look, I can't say enough about Rainn Wilson. I was already a huge Rainn Wilson fan. And like I said, his ability to kind of put all of that into one character, both like the compassion and the burnout and the humor, it is remarkable. Lil Rel Howery said, one of the funniest people in the world.
Oh God,
goes to some really dramatic places. But Amy is absolutely like the rudder, and she was so great, and such a hard role to kind of be naive and yet smart and tough, but compassionate and as a foil for Rainn, right? She and Rainn butt heads.
Yep.
No, and then hold her own with these two hilarious comedians. You know, it was a really perfect trio.
Now I got to ask you, Patrick, did you give Rainn and did you give any of them, but particularly Rainn, any kind of inside tips on being a paramedic that they could bring to the fore?
Yeah, we did. So we did a day of training with all three of the main leads, which was a lot of fun. We took them through their paces. We threw them in the back of an ambulance and drove them around L.A. We got them certified in CPR so they could do that accurately on screen. We did a ride-along with L.A. County Station 14, which is in South Central, which by call volume is the busiest house in all of L.A. So Rainn and Amy, and Chris all did a ride-along with those fine individuals at that house. And so letting them experience it for themselves and then bring that to life on screen was something that was really important to me. And then as far as what I would tell them is if they asked me stuff, then I was happy to share. But I didn't want this to come off as an autobiography. So I was never telling them, this is the only way to think about this situation. There were a couple of times where they would ask me something, and I don't want to spoil some plot points here, so I'm being cagey for a reason, and just saying, you're not mad about this, you're mad about this, even though the rest of the world is mad about situation A. What you're mad about is situation B, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes
perfect
sense.
Oh, the support we got both from the fire department and the folks at Lifeline,
Amazing partners.
who were so supportive and so enthusiastic about the movie. We really tried to do right by everybody, and our highest hope was that all these folks, every paramedic, every EMS worker, could watch the movie and go, oh my God, they got it right.
And watching is a big part of what a movie is, and this is where I got to commend Mark Williams, your cinematographer, Christopher.
Yeah.
The two of you do such a great job with the visual grammar. Overall, you keep the film light, bright. There's a slight saturation level to it, but then you have these cinematographic logistics you've got to deal with. You're in the confines of an ambulance, shooting in the ambulance. You're out on the streets, and anytime exteriors are great on the whole, but they're also logistically challenging at times. You're in the direct flight path of LAX, so you've got planes flying over, traffic, people, and then you're also thinking about coverage shots for emotional resonance and give and take. How did you and Mark go about developing the visual grammar for Code 3?
Man, that's a great question. Well, so two big ideas. One, the main driving force was the idea that the camera would be the fourth paramedic. So every decision was to try to create that feeling that we're in the truck with those guys. We're in the truck looking out, right? So we're in the truck as we pull up to a scene and we see all the faces looking back to us and see lights bouncing off the building at night. And then Mark had the genius idea to bring a camera, I think it's the Sony Venice 2, which has its detachable lens, which meant inside a real ambulance, we could squeeze into some really tight corners and see the whole thing because there's not a lot of room in that thing. And then finally, just the nature of the movie, the real paramedic shift, the paramedic shift that Patrick used to run was a 24-hour shift. So you'd start at 7 a.m. and you'd end at 7 a.m. So you'd go, you'd start in bright daylight and go into night and come back out in the daylight. And we knew that would be part of the movie, but that's the emotional journey too. So that kind of was a nice that kind of dovetailed. And so as the movie goes on and the night falls, like you can feel the movie get weirder and darker and go into territory I think you don't expect.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. How challenging was it shooting inside the ambulance?
Well, that was the advantage of that camera. But yeah, I mean, it was a constant game of trying to figure out where do we put the camera every time. And yeah, and then how do you feel like we're along for the ride? How do you feel the truck shaking and what really goes on back there? No, it was, we shot an LED stage, which helped us move very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But really, we're also really trying to feel Los Angeles. I mean, it is a Los Angeles movie, and a lot of our locations were in Hawthorne and Inglewood and all in the path of LAX. And so we have all these scenes where the planes kept flying overhead that we eventually incorporated it into the end of the movie. And that just became, I mean, the trick about shooting in LA is like, well, which LA are you shooting in? It's a giant city.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we shooting downtown? Are we shooting in the valley? And ultimately the airport area became our playground.
Now,
as it pertains to the ambulance, one of the things that I think is really important is that the reason you kind of get that claustrophobia and that real sense of intimacy is that we used a real ambulance. There are movie in air quotes ambulances where you could pull walls off and put cameras in. We were in a standard sized, real working ambulance that you would see bumping down the road. And so I think Mark and Chris's ability to be able to bring that level of cinematography in that confined space helps the realism up it 1,000%.
I completely agree with you, Patrick, because I was just utterly amazed. And it is, you mentioned that key word, that claustrophobic nature. There's not a lot of room to navigate inside an ambulance. For anybody who's ever been in one, you know that. But just so well done. Now, Christopher, I've got to ask you, with your extensive visual effects background and experience, did that come into play in one particularly juicy scene inside the ambulance with the spew of vomit everywhere?
Well, the vomit was all real. So that wasn't visual effects. That was real, well, not real puke, but real fake puke, real liquid. So and that's pretty gross, man. I mean, honestly, it grossed me out more than I expected. Like, it's fake, but then you smell it, and after a while, it gets gross as you go. But yeah, no, being a visual effects artist, and Patrick's brother, Paul Pianezza, also on set, like, he and I both worked in visual effects. That's how I know him, and that's how this whole movie got started. Mm-hmm. And it meant that we always had a shorthand, knowing like, can we, what's an easy effect to do? What can we cheat? I think there's a shot where in the Mr. President scene where we're trying to, well, I don't want to give it away, but trying to pull all these different elements together in one shot. And it was the end of the night, and we were going really quickly. And Paul and I looked at each other, and we're like, yeah, we can do this. When we knew just how to assemble this shot to just get it done quickly, and it looks great. But yes, it's a huge advantage to know what you can and can't do, and especially like how to do it in a way that's cost effective and fast.
Now, there's another element of this film that I thoroughly enjoy, and that is your score. What your composer, what Maximilian Eberle brings. What were you looking for musically for a film like Code 3?
A couple things. One, I liked a high energy score because I liked like kind of bringing in like some of the hip hop beats and like feeling like, at one, I think it was a surprise, and feeling again, it's kind of the range of the movie, like this high energy music, but then also some of the music is a gut punch, but I also didn't want the music to get in the way. I think most of the music, the emotional side of the music, usually comes in afterwards, so it kind of comes in and supports it. But Max also did this kind of brilliant thing. There's parts of the movie where we sort of break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And every piece of that music is really remarkable, and he created it out of real medical instruments and components. Wow. And each one is totally different, but each one is like this fascinating kind of unworldly but fun piece. In fact, there's a montage that's about death, and he drove it all with a ticking clock. And I thought that was a genius idea. So yeah, no, he was fantastic. And like I said, I again, just like the rest of the movie, as it goes on, it gets kind of deeper, and the music goes with it.
But I am fascinated by the instrumentation that he actually used instruments, medical instruments, to create some of the sound.
Beeping and scalpels and all sorts of stuff.
Wow, that's very much something that I always expect from Vocal Bertelmann. Volker is known for composing with unusual things like that. Wow.
Yeah.
On every level, I am just beyond impressed by this. So I got one last question for both of you. I'm curious, Christopher, as a filmmaker, what did you learn about yourself in making Code 3 that you can now take with you into future productions? And Patrick, how are you going to top this one?
Man, I mean, I think I learned, one, about how important it was to me to be medically accurate, to be true. I mean, to be true to the paramedics, to be true to the medicine, and that is hard. Like, that is time consuming, right? Yeah. And when you're making a movie, it's all time, right? What you're up against every day is the ticking clock. And so when you're taking time to try to get things right, that was a commitment we made. And but I was totally right. Like, to me, I'm very proud of that in the movie. So that was worth it.
Yeah. What about for you, Patrick? Where do you go now? It's going to be hard to top this.
Anywhere Chris goes is where I'm going. But I am incredibly proud of this, and because it's such a personal story of mine, it's not an autobiography, but it hits very, very close to home to me. I'm not looking to up it. I think this is a very close to perfect film, especially as close to perfect as I could ever be involved in. So I'm not so much concerned about trying to beat it, but if there's opportunities down the road to tell other stories that I'm interested in and passionate about, or an opportunity to collaborate with Chris and my brother again, there's never any hesitation. This has been one of the most fulfilling and enjoyable careers that I've had to date.
Well, I can tell both of you, I wouldn't be at all unhappy to see this turned into a series.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it's funny. Like, it was always a movie to us, but yes, you could take a lot of the format and a lot of the ideas we developed and a lot of the kind of the visual language of it, and yes, you could launch a TV series.
Yeah. I mean,
but it'd be a different thing, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, whoever would have thought 50 years ago that Emergency would have sustained a television series as long as it did? But it did.
It's one of the most medically accurate shows out there.
I know.
No, I was going to say, but I think one of the most interesting things, I mean, I think the reason we always thought it was a movie was because it was this kind of journey, like kind of into the night, like into darkness and out. And that also, I mean, I will say the astonishing thing for me is seeing it now. I've seen it several times now with an audience, and feeling, like in a theater, and feeling the entire room react, and, you know, the entire room laugh, and the entire room react in shock sometimes, and feeling the suspense and the tension. It is remarkable. And I mean, look, I'm a movie fan. I love going to the movies. I love going to a movie theater. And I think it really works that way, and it's a unique experience. And I think it just makes the movie, having that communal experience, I think elevates the movie.
Well, on every level, guys, absolutely fantastic. You even broke the fourth wall, and you did it beautifully. I want to see more from the two of you. More.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Thank you so much, Patrick. This has been fantastic getting to talk to you about Code 3.
Yeah, you too, Debbie. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll chat again in the future.
Okay, I hope so too.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was Christopher Leone and Patrick Pianezza talking about Code 3, which is in theaters right now. Right now. Don't miss it. And that is all the time we have today. I was going to try and squeeze in one more interview, but I made with Vincent Grashaw talking about Bang Bang, but I may hold that till next week, unless I put it up on the website sooner, sometime later this week. But we shall see. So go check out Code 3 this week in theaters, and on Friday the 19th, also exclusively in theaters, you can catch London Calling. So, until next week, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.